Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. There it is. Recording is in progress. We are officially back with our live session this evening with Tyler Quennell. We'll get to his bio in a second. A short little hiatus between our last session and this one. This is session 97 of First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Epic, Benchmark Athletics, Mobility Tape, and in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. As always, we appreciate, Tyler, your time, and our audience that's here live. Anybody picking this up in the future as well, having an audience to speak with passion and about things that matter in our space goes a long way. Had a lot of good feedback between our last session and this one as well, and really looking forward to connecting with you, Tyler. It's taken a little bit to coordinate our schedules, but here we are. So let me get through your bio and we'll jump in here. As always, appreciate having you on. Always a good time to chat. So Tyler Quennell graduated from CCMH with a diploma in massage therapy in 2000. He's always had a love for sports and working with athletes. He explored sport massage at first, but worked with athletic therapists in a clinical setting and soon realized this is where his passion lied. Directed to Sheridan College, he entered the athletic therapy program and graduated in the first class of the 4-year BA HSC AT program, Bachelor of Arts, Honors Science, I believe that's correct, Health Science in athletic therapy. During his time at Sheridan College, he was placed at McMaster University under Dave Murray, who had a great impact on his learning and his current professional status. Tyler spent the 2006 training camp with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL, and after a successful national exam, went on to become the assistant equipment manager for that season. In 2013, TQ began his lacrosse career with the Oakville Rock for 2 seasons until the NLL position opened up with the Toronto Rock, where he was reunited with Mr. Dave Murray, now as a professional colleague. Through the years, he's created the opportunity to work with Team Canada men's box lacrosse, including working during the Heritage Cup in 2017. He currently holds roles at Sheridan College as a clinical supervisor and serves as the president of the board of directors of the CATA since June of 2021, having been a part of that board of directors since 2015. Tyler, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you carving in the time. I'll let you say hello, and then we'll just kind of jump into this career path and ramble on.
This is great. Yeah, thanks for having me, James. Geez, when you said graduated in 2000, it kind of hit home a little bit that I'm not young anymore.
There's this bizarre crossing, yeah.
Right? It's wow. It's like, geez, when you say it out loud, yeah, I've been at this for over 20 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So thanks for reminding me. But yeah, it took a bit to get our schedules coordinated. You've had a big move here, which has been great. And I think the last time we talked in person, we were in Halifax, right?
That's the one. That's the overlap where the 13, I don't know how many years I've been at it, but veteran move with a rookie mistake where I went yard sale on my way out onto the floor. So we'll talk about that story as we get going. I'd rather talk about your path and getting here and all the great things you're doing. We sort of talked in the preamble about, the importance of mentors and the importance of being a mentor and the importance of being in contact with or being mentored by the younger population, by students. They reinvigorate, they challenge, they sort of carve the path of where things are going currently. But an interesting sort of transition from you going back through time and showing how old you are, but going back to massage and how you transitioned into athletic therapy. Was there sort of an aha moment? Was there certain people, like what did that look like when it first sort of guided you that way?
I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in high school. Not a single idea. I knew I liked certain things. I ended up doing a co-op placement when I was in high school at the local hospital. And the hilarious thing is I didn't know, like a lot of people, and I, it's funny that a lot of us actually can say this, but when I was really young, I didn't have an AT in my town. I grew up in a small town on Lake Huron, and no athletic therapist. Go to the hospital for this co-op, and you traveled around to the different departments. And my two favorite departments were the ER and the physio clinic, because back then it was still an outpatient OHIP physio clinic. Right. I ended up talking with a woman who used to work for my dad, who was a close family friend. Her name's Alyssa Bowler, and she kind of started talking to me about massage therapy. And I thought, okay, well, this is neat. There's a lot of the science, a lot of the anatomy, which I was good at and rather liked. I went away to school and got a good job, actually, in a very busy clinic in beautiful Angus, Ontario, with Rick Shaley. It was one of his clinics. So there I actually met some of the first athletic therapists in my career. Anna Jorgensen, John Sage, Adriana Schnersky, who was a Concordia grad. They were Katie McDonald, who's out east now. Just great, always had great things to say, and they just looked like they knew what they were doing all the time. And I was a bit of a punk kid, because when I graduated, I was only 20. So I really didn't know like what I was doing. Like some other fresh-faced grad, I had almost no idea. But I had a good work ethic, and as funny as it sounds, I had a decent personality for it. Somewhat empathetic at the time, at least. Some of my athletes might actually say that I'm not now, but they kind of got me into it, and I saw the 10 by 10 room closing in the massage therapy world. And I knew I don't want to say destined for more, but I knew I needed more. I wanted more. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Sheridan had just flipped over from the diploma in sports injury management to the Bachelor of Applied Health Science in athletic therapy. And I applied, and I ended up getting in. So funny enough, one of those mentors, Katie McDonald, had left the clinic and gotten a job at Sheridan. She actually interviewed me. So for I was going to say the position for a spot in the program. I think there were 25 or 30 of us in that first year. So it was pretty interesting. And then from there, you get in, you meet some of the other kind of bigger names that, your Ann Hartley's, your Joe Rotella's, and people who are involved in the program. Kirsty McKenzie was running the clinic at the time. And they all just were so smart, and it was really great. I knew that I wanted to listen, and I've had this mentality for a while. I stole little bits that I liked from each of them. And if I didn't like her, if I didn't jive with it, if I didn't think I could pull it off, I left it, and I developed my own way, which mm-hmm. is, how I kind of came to be who I am in 2007. And since 2007, you're talking, almost 15 years ago, just started to evolve and become my own person and have my own opinions, which is, and my own way of doing things, which is, in line and in step with a lot of the people who I've been able to work with over the last several years, which has been great.
Yeah, and I think there's so many good points here that we can pick apart and go back to, but a couple of them one, being super interesting that you went from massage to AT, and sort of the migration nowadays is to like get AT and then go and get RMT, so you have more breadth of scope of practice, I guess, as it stands. But for me, the integrative space that is athletic therapy, and you touched on it with all of these amazing sort of path carvers in the space, you know, that you come in contact with, and you come in contact with them maybe as a student, and then you come back around and they interview you, or you end up working beside them. I think it's such an amazing world. And you talk about getting older, that's just kind of part of the thing. But there's weird crossover that I think I'm starting to experience as well now, where like, yeah, like you're bordering on the old guy in the room, because now you have students that you taught a long time ago, or mentored, or hated you, or whatever, that end up working alongside you, and now you're on the same level as a professional. I think that's beautiful, because it's such a small space. And you see them do just the thing that you're talking about, taking bits and pieces along the way, and evolving into a practitioner that can do it their own way with under the umbrella of, you know, the therapist. But a couple interesting points, and I just think those are not counter to the norm, but to go from massage in as a base to go that way, as opposed to the other way around. But I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know I was doing it backwards, actually.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a couple of us in that first year who were RMTs, and another one. There's Kristen Beaujolais. She lives in Manitoba, and my good friend Dan Buckland, who's with the Sudbury Wolves right now. We were RMTs on the first day, and you just kind of knew, and had gone to similar schools and whatnot. But I don't think any of us knew we were doing it backwards to the norm. So it was interesting when we would explain that, like, no, I am an RMT. I'm coming in for this because, like, and again, for me, I say it was the 10 by 10 room closing in.
Yeah.
I think Dan was kind of the same, where I wanted to be outside. As funny as that sounds, I wanted to be around lots of people. You know, as an RMT, you're in that one-on-one room, which I still actually enjoy, the private treatment room, and depending on who I'm with and what kind of treatment we're doing. But there's also something to that camaraderie of a bigger open clinic training room kind of atmosphere, where, you know, you have athletes or patients challenging each other to get better. And sometimes that works, and sometimes there's actually a bit of a negative to that. But it's all in where you are in the mentality. And I have a decent sized personality, as I like to say. I'm an acquired taste, you know, like a good fine wine, good whiskey. And I have a personality that's pretty good for the training room. I know there's a few people who will listen to this who will, whether they like me or not, will say like, yeah, he actually chirps quite a bit in the training room. So
you can get it, but you can also, you can also give it, which is part of that fodder that goes on, certainly in the team environment. But I also think there's a big piece here with sort of the integrative space. And this is where I come at, like, all dual credential, multi-credential practitioners, and so on and so forth, whether you have credentials or not. But if your scope of learning is broad enough, you can begin to think growth mindset, and see opportunities, and feel and experience opportunities. And I think in the team space, maybe more specifically, or integrative clinics, where the RMT can step out of the room, and let's throw away title, but like the AT can step into any one of those rooms and perform components of, right, with a team or with a patient. So we can do a little bit of petrissage or effleurage or whatever. We can do a little bit of fascial technique, or maybe not high level manipulations, but certainly joint mobilizations and all these different pieces. But you can also play that therapy side, where you're out on the sideline and you're watching everything that's going on. And I just had this conversation out here with a student who's about to graduate from Camosun. And sort of talking about therapeutic stuff and internship opportunities and things like this. And this division between, and sorry to go on a rant, and I'll just jar your thought maybe here, but like the division between clinical and field, and having those two separate things in placements, sort of puts us into siloed compartments of, oh, I like the clinic, or I like the field. It's just kind of interesting to navigate that from an integrative space, because in the pro sport space, having recently stepped back into it and spent time in it in various realms, there is no division between field and clinic, because the clinic spills onto the field and the field spills back into the clinic if we're doing things sort of in an integrative and I think, in my biases anyway, in an inadequate manner, because that ankle exercise that we're doing doesn't just affect, you know, the ankle getting better. It's going to affect how they're performing in the gym, how they're performing on the pitch or the field or the ice or whatever. So your take on that? I just think it's interesting. We think in silos. A lot of places that we go and see, things are still very siloed. And I think that causes division as opposed to revision in the way of thinking more integrative and allowing, you know, the AT to walk on the gym floor and not be out of place, to walk on the sideline and not be out of place, you know?
Yeah. I like how you say that, how it's siloed, and I completely agree with that. And that's one of the things a lot of us we're trying to do at Sheridan is say, so, you know, you're doing an ankle mobilization, and this is how it's going to help them with their sport, but it actually is probably going to help them also going up and down stairs. Mm-hmm. And it's also going to, and I'm okay at this, but you know what? I feel like really good therapists, and you know, I'd like your take on it, are the ones that know their limits and are not afraid to say, yeah, this is not my forte. So, and that's where working with someone like Dave Murray is really great, because Dave's also an osteo.
Right. So
to say, yep, I see this, I've done this, and he'll kind of come back to me almost like he's still my supervisor, which is funny. Because he's like, well, what was their strength like? And you know, there's times where even I forgot to check strength on the opposite side or whatever. I'll say, yep, this is what I think. And he'll say, yeah, okay, and we're on the same page. But it's to, you know, recognize my limits, because I know with his osteopathy background, he's going to look at things completely. We had a 10-minute conversation with a player about the mesentery and how it could actually affect the left SI joint. Like, yep, okay, you know, 15 years ago, I would have been pretty lost in that conversation. Now I actually get what he's saying, and have no problem saying, yeah, I think I've taken him as far as I can go, but I know they need that next thing. And it's same in the clinic. You know, you're right. It is compartmentalized. And I've worked in lots of multidisciplinary clinics, and it's very, you know, especially when it comes into like a fee for service and whatnot, I find that practitioners are less likely to refer to another discipline, because you're afraid you're not going to get that person back. And I understand that, like, you know, we all have bills to pay, and I really get that. But sometimes it is the best thing for the patient to say, hey, either I think you need to go and see, you know, this person because they are better at this than me, or I think you need acupuncture, which I don't do. And some of the places that I've been at that I've liked the most are the ones where you'll get that crazy patient who comes in and they've tried lots of places, and you know, there's 3 or 4 different practitioners, and we all kind of stand around like you're doing rounds, you know, on that show House.
Great show, by the way. Great
plug. And well, and I feel like that's kind of like our job. Just ideally, you know, we don't have a Vicodin addiction, so you stand around, you start to talk about their symptoms and what about this and what about this, and it's neat to see them come in and ask different questions. You're like, oh, I didn't even think of that perspective. Didn't even come close. So great. I'm glad we're here talking about it, because you get 3 practitioners all asking the same question, doing the same thing. You know, I think a lot of us have had that patient where they've seen a physio, they've seen a massage therapist, even a chiro, and they'll come in with the same problem. And I sometimes stop them and say, okay, well, what did they do? And they tend to all do the same thing or something really similar. Like, all right, well, that's perfect. I'm not going to do that. Like, why would I be the 4th person in line to do the same thing that didn't work?
Right.
So let's take a step back and try and look at it globally.
No, and I think there's a lot of value in that as well. And it may just be pretty simple at this point in our career to admit that we don't know everything. And I think coming out as students, we feel like we have to know everything in order to pass the exam, in order to get that first job. And really what this is all about is evolving constantly and learning. And I think the biggest learning that I've taken, and you sort of touched on it maybe in different words, and correct me if I'm, you know, putting words in your mouth, but to refer onwards is patient best care. And that patient isn't going to leave you because you referred them. They're going to appreciate what you've done for them by getting them in the right place for what they need. And if it is about bringing them back, then they'll come back either to thank you or to come back and say like, wow, like you're not just going to do the same thing that everybody else did and end up in the same spot. So that's a big piece. And then I think if we throw away titles, but you're just in a space and you're working with another practitioner, different sets of eyes are going to see different things. I mean, we could stand the same person in front of us, the same athlete, the same human being in front of us, and you'll say, oh, look, he's rotated to the right, or she has an upward swing of her pelvis on the left, or whatever those things are. And if my eye doesn't see that, then okay, sure, you caught something I didn't. Does that mean you're better, or does it mean that I was just paying more attention to what the first hallux was doing on the right foot? You know what I mean? So different strokes for different folks. And then just going back to the mesentery, that's a good one for anybody out there listening. Just trying to identify where and what that is. That is in the abdomen. It is an organ. It does play with the posterior, I think, abdominal wall, but we'll let everybody else sort of examine that on their own time. But that's, I mean, those are the big pieces, right? Is what we know and where we refer and how we work with other patients or people or humans or athletes is how we evolve as well. And I think that listening factor and actually trying to figure things out and be a problem solver instead of an answer getter is two different things. And so we've talked about this in the Sheridan space when we had some overlap there, and just sort of, it's not about getting the answer. It's about gathering as much information as you can to help said individual get better at whatever they need to do. Whether you get the tissue right or wrong is sort of irrelevant if you're helping them get better. You'll eventually get the tissue right if you have imaging and diagnostics and all these other things. Yeah. So I don't know.
You know what? And I really like actually having the students. So I feel like I'm the middle. Dave is superior to me in lots of ways because he tells me this all the time. No, he doesn't actually. He's a really humble guy. Yeah. But also we have a student with us this year, Katie Sands, who is in her third year. And before the shutdown, before COVID kind of hit, we had another student, Tuyet, who was in her last year, and they would come out. And what's really interesting and really great, I find, about having the students there, and especially in an atmosphere like that, is they're looking at things with like literally the freshest eyes, because in that third year and the fourth year of those programs, our program, Camosun, York, like they see things that sometimes even as an experienced practitioner, you kind of glaze over and you say, yep, I see it. I don't think that's an issue right now. I will get to that, put a pin in it. And then they ask a question. It kind of forces you to slow down. And as you're explaining stuff, you think, geez, yeah, actually, there could be a connection here. You're correct. Let's back it up and look at this a little bit differently. So, I'm asking questions to Dave. Dave's asking me. Katie's asking us, or two was asking us, and it was really good. It's almost like having that three generations looking at the same picture and having three completely different opinions on it.
No, absolutely. And I think we touched on it earlier. That's mentorship as well. Our students are mentoring us. If you're just doing the teaching,
absolutely,
not learning, you're missing something, because the students have plenty to share and to teach us. Absolutely.
I do, because they see things in such a different way, even different from when I was in the program. I'm helping out in the anatomy right now, and so it's a great review. I'm a big anatomy guy. I think it's really important, and I'm also in the manual class because I work with my hands. Like, these are things that I really like about our profession, is that aspect of touch and helping somebody and feeling with it, just the slightest touch, like, yep, this doesn't work. I need to push here. I need to pull there, and whatever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the way sometimes it's the ones that get it, and sometimes it's the ones that don't get it, where you have to, again, like, really take the explanation down and break it down and say, and walk them all through it. Not that they don't get it. You're explaining it to them, but sometimes you get to a point you're like, Jesus, I think I might be explaining this to myself too, because it's refreshing to see it from this point of view again, from those new eyes, which again, and I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for anybody else, but I think sometimes we get caught with that, you're in a rush, the game is on, the coach is breathing down your neck, whether it's are they in the lineup or out of the lineup, what is this, what is that, and you skim over a few things. I've certainly done that, and I do try, and when I catch myself, I'm usually pretty frustrated with myself, but it does happen, and ideally we just try and fix it for the next time. So it's good to have those different perspectives to keep you honest.
Sure. And different experiences as well, right? Like in the heat of the moment, is she ready to go? Like they're playing right now, like yes, no, in, out, that's all I need. Don't give me anything else. Versus you have an hour and you can just sort of take your time and really look at, the mesentery and do some other things like that. Different
people looking that up now.
Yeah.
You're like, oh geez. Okay.
I missed that one. That was question 48. But just sort of different environments. And again, that plays into what we do as athletic therapists. You can be in virtually any environment because you can talk the language of movement, and you can talk the language of not knowing everything, but knowing enough about a lot of different things that you could begin to put the pieces together to create a puzzle that works, and that works for the patient for what they need, athlete or just human in general, right? Like it hurts to sit down in my car and it hurts to get out of my car. What can't do? I have to drive my car. So like, how can you help me? That's not drastically different than it hurts every time I strike the ball, but I have to strike the ball. So, how do we approach that and how do we go? And I do want to sort of take everybody on a path to what you're doing and what you have done as well, and not, burn the midnight oil on your end. Professional sports and working in the lacrosse league, obviously we had some overlap there, a couple months back, and but you've had plenty of time with the Rock. There's been a couple years, right? Like a very long stretch with COVID, obviously, where they weren't playing. What's it been like getting back for you? And not the stutters or anything like that, but it's obviously exciting to get back in the barn and start hanging out with those guys and doing that stuff.
It really is. And you know what, especially at the beginning of the shutdown, we were all in touch quite a bit, because there was a lot of, nobody knew anything. You shut down. We shut down March 13th, and I think within 48 hours of the NBA going and the NHL going, and it was the best thing at the time, but nobody knew anything. So we didn't know if we were coming back. I am part of the medical committee for the league. So the league has medical meetings every year. So there will be medical staff from every team. We're at 14 teams now. And a few years ago, they decided to elect a committee, someone to do, or people to do sort of some higher level planning, then to present it back and whatnot. So we've got two docs, Dr. Marcus Robinson and Dr. Cole Beavis. They're the docs for Calgary and Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. Then there's two of us. So I'm the representative. I guess we're just back to East and West. We had 3 divisions before, but East Division. And then there's Mike Grouse, who's in Georgia. So he's a ATC. He's American. So we have a north-south docs. We kind of have our bases covered there. And they put to us like, okay, we're going to try and come back in the summer to finish the 2020 season. Mm-hmm. Like, here you go, make it work. So we thought, okay, yikes. And no one had done this. No one was talking, to say we'll have a bubble. Still wasn't really, when we started, it wasn't an option. Nobody knew what that was. So we got to learn pretty fast. And it was interesting to see, okay, so you walk into the rink on a game day. What happens when somebody tests positive at the morning shoot around? What happens if here? What about food? Where are we getting our food? Do you let the guys out? And you start asking literally, 10,000 questions that you can't answer because, the restrictions were changing, the laws, and, we were not worried about masks, and then everybody needed one. And it was getting a bit crazy. So the league did shut that down, which was, again, the right decision, and then delayed one more year. So we're back from March March 13th. Yeah. And then we didn't play in 2021 season. And then we just got back. Our first game was in December. We played at home, and then we came to see you, and you were in Halifax. And it's been great because, you know, as you know, in your time there, like, it's a small lacrosse, a small niche community kind of thing. And so it was really nice to see some of those players on Halifax, Steph LeBlanc, who ended up scoring the game-winning goal, Dirk, that he used to play for us in Toronto. And I've known him for a long time. So it was really nice to see him. And then, you know, you go friends off for 60 minutes, but and hear, like, how are you doing? We've had players around the league who you haven't talked to since the shutdown. You're like, oh my God, you're a parent now. Great. Were you before? It's been a while since we've talked. So, but that camaraderie with the athletes and, you know, the other medical staff. So I know, like, Dave Murray, Tim Large, our equipment manager, and I, we probably spoke to each other 2 or 3 times a month. You know, maybe once a week at some points, and then you go on vacation if you can. And we kept in touch, which was good, really good.
Yeah, and there's some continuity there, and it's sort of a bit of a strange league in terms of a professional league, and what guys do outside of that. And my first experience with it through Dan Noble, who does some work with Halifax, and I did some work with him prior to, so he just kind of brought me in for the startup of the season and those kinds of things. But an interesting sport. I mean, like, probably one of the toughest sports to play, box lacrosse. You're running, the turf is generally just on top of a bunch of concrete. You're pivoting, you're working around a very small space with sticks, and body contact being fully legal, and fights not being out of the ordinary, and all kinds of stuff. A fairly aggressive sport.
Well, and that's one of the things, actually, we were really concerned about trying to start back up. And that was one of the reasons we didn't do the bubble in 2020 was we thought, gee, these guys have been off for 6 to 8 weeks. The gyms have closed. Like, they haven't been able to do anything. Right. We're asking them to go full tilt again. Yep. And so I think that was the right call, but we were really, when this season was getting ready to start, and the league sort of made a commitment, like, no, we're going to start. We are starting in December. Worst case scenario, they were going to push it back to January, but we are going to play this year. Mm-hmm. We found that out in the midsummer. And so you had to start. We were working on the COVID protocol, which ended up becoming a 50-page document, and had so many things. There's so many things in it. But it was also, you know, reaching out to our own strength and conditioning, coach, Sean Holmes, to say, okay, Homer, like, what should we, from your point of view, what should we worry about? And there was a bit of a summer tournament, major series lacrosse did a summer kind of a showcase tournament, and some guys came back and some didn't. And, you know, within the first couple of days, you saw an Achilles rupture, another Achilles rupture. You know, I know one guy went out with a pretty bad herniated disc, just from, you know, going from 0 to 100 within a couple of days. So it's, once we saw that, it was, all right, that's over, and here's the fall, and let's make sure that guys are running, but not just running on a treadmill or steady state. Like, let's pick it up, drop it down, and start to mimic that stuff. So all of those things, which is, you know, kind of back to what we were talking about before, where we're all integrated. And it's, you know, I absolutely love having Sean Holmes with us, the strength, like, he's like a Dan Noble to you. So where you can just say, okay, I've got them here. You are going upstairs to the gym. Yep. And he'll be upstairs in the gym and say, yeah, this isn't working. Go down and CQ. So it's really, again, having that team, and it becomes a bit of a family. Like, as funny as this sounds, that the Toronto Rock are a bit of a family, because we all talk a lot, and we're all in each other's kitchen.
That's beautiful. And I think that goes a long way. And I think for sort of some of the younger listeners or listeners that are in different practices, right, like either in team or in clinical spaces or hybridized models between the two, or looking at what do they prefer. The long layoff, we have to look at that as a disuse injury, essentially.
Yeah.
All systems are, for the most part, especially in Ontario, with the lockdown levels and the things that were allowed and disallowed and these kinds of things, treating it like a disuse injury and then saying, like, what are our key targets here, and how are we going to approach those, and what are our in our language or in the strength and conditioning, whoever's language, like the KPIs, what are going to be the key performance indicators, and what are the key performance inhibitors that we need to keep an eye on here, and ACLs and Achilles and stops and starts and patellar tendon blowouts, and like whatever happens with a bunch of sort of disused tissue and all these kinds of things, anecdotal or not, we have to look at it as an injury, essentially a forced shutdown, a forced freeze in a season when they're sort of potentially.
Well, and sometimes, and you say the NLL is the National Lacrosse League is a funny league, and it is, like, it's kind of like the CFL of old, where guys would go to practice and then they go to work, and that's what our league is. Like, we have a lawyer on the team, we have a guy who does fire suppression systems, we have a couple of guys who sell houses. So they go to work and they come back, and this is really fun for them. And yeah, they're professional athletes, and they very much in the last couple of years they're I don't want to say they're starting to act like it, but these guys who used to do a couple of runs a couple of weeks before camp, and then by mid-season they're in shape, like they are coming in pretty high level now, which is good. So there's that good shift, but we had to look at it just like that, like the disuse injury, and say, okay, here's what we're going to expect, so here's what we want you to do. And you really had to pick those players and educate them, and some of them you have to really put the reins on and say, no, I need you to follow this process and this regime. You can't just do box jumps because you haven't done box jumps. Right. And you can't just say, I was on the floor and I'm on a box and I jumped and I did a box jump. That's not how that works. Yeah. Because it's like, it would be like telling a racehorse, we're only going to go 75% today.
Right.
Doesn't really work. Unless you're really pulling back, that horse is going to go as fast as it wants until it can't go. And that's athletes in general, really. Mm-hmm. So we had to really, talk with the docs and the therapists. And that was even really good about talking to some of the other therapists in the league. Like, here's kind of what we're doing. What are you doing? And we are pretty tight with, the Rochester Nighthawks therapist, Steve Lobsinger, because he lives here in Ontario. Right. We talked to the Saskatchewan, we talked to Halifax, we talked to all of them, and we kind of all got together and just said, all right, we're all in this together, like just the medical group. We need help here. Mm-hmm. So it was good. And it was nice to have that, those different points of view and those shoulders to lean on. And we all kind of went through it. I think we've all, like, COVID's kind of going through our league, just like the other leagues. So having those meetings and having those calls saying, like, yep, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting them back, and these are the long-term symptoms we're dealing with, and just trying to find the solution. Because again, this is our third. I'm not sure when you graduated. When I graduated in 2000, it was right before SARS 1, and then there was the H1N1, and so this is my third pandemic, and it's been off the rails. Like, we never did this for the first ones. And so, like, masks and distancing and all this stuff, I feel like when we get to a fourth, in 10 years, don't quote me, but I think we'll be right back to this, and it will just be an automatic.
Right.
I don't know about shutdowns and stuff, but I feel like having those support systems, for us as professionals and athletes and whatnot, and, families and sort of the mental health aspect too, what we're learning now, we need to make sure that we keep in a diary or something somewhere, because we're going to have to come back to this, I feel like.
Absolutely. And I think that, again, circle back around to a couple of the points that we've touched on any number of times already, is this continual evolution, right? Like this continual growth mindset of, like, learning and taking your experiences and putting that in place moving forward. And I think those that are traveling this right now as therapists with teams can learn from students who are coming through this with bright ideas of like, you're seeing the world of sport or the world of performance or the world of athletic therapy through this lens that nobody else is. Right. And so that could be a detriment. Sure, you could look at this as a detriment that you didn't get to do all these things, but you could also look at this as you can now educate anybody behind you and anybody who's 10 years in front of you that doesn't have that experience of going.
I actually think some of the therapists now, and I don't know if they'll disagree. Maybe they will. I don't know, because I'll say it's my opinion. I think they're going to be farther ahead than you or me in terms of virtual treatments.
Sure.
Because they've been forced to do it and nobody knew what they were doing. Everyone just kind of muddled through, and everyone's kind of developed their own system and has gotten better. But I feel like any therapist that says they had a successful first ever virtual treatments, probably not telling the truth to somebody either.
Or they only did one. Yeah, exactly.
Or exactly. Or they only did one. But we incorporated that at Sheridan, right away. And I believe York did the same. And some of the other schools did, because it's just because this is the way the program ran, and this is the way we've always been doing things. It's my pet peeve. It's the way we've always been doing things. Yep. Is there a better way? Doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. Let's keep evolving. Let's keep moving forward and asking questions and just making sure this is still, correct. Can we still do this? Or is there a better way?
Mm-hmm. And that evolution of the program at Sheridan, I mean, we could probably spend 3 hours just talking about where it's going. And I've been lucky enough to have that opportunity to have some overlap there with you and the staff at Sheridan, and what an amazing program. And then a little bit with York, obviously, and now being out here on the West Coast, we'll hopefully tap in at Camosun and have some overlap there. But I just think these programs are so robust, and they need to adapt, and maybe in some light, like they have to adapt, to COVID and to some of these other pieces. But the evolution of the athletic therapy profession, we'll get into this just before I let you go. I don't want to keep you here too long. I would love to, but I also want to be fair to the rest of your life, and it's a little bit later over there. You are the president of the board of directors with the CATA, which is not a small title. It's not a small feat. And it is something that, if I'm being blunt, not a lot of people would take on, I think. So like, why? I don't want to get into any of the other stuff other than like, why do you want to be in that role? And what's your sort of vision from not that perch, but in that role? And how do you see the profession sort of evolving with you in that role?
It's been an interesting ride as president, for sure. So being on the board since 2015, I was a director, and then I ended up becoming vice president in the last year of my term. I actually took a year off, so I had 2 terms back to back. I ended up I needed to take some time off, so I didn't run. I had no interest in going back at the time, but I was re-elected. I was renominated and re-elected. And when I came back, I was elected from within the board as vice president again. And so Mike Robinson, who was the president before me, and we ended up speaking, and this was again during COVID, because my term didn't start till June 1st. And so we had been shut down for 2 months, 3 months. And we talked about a lot of things, and we were doing this strategic plan. Like, we had a company come in and talk to us and interview us. And so I like to work the word evolution in, because it's in our strategic plan. We need to evolve as a profession, as an association. And I think we are. It's slow, but we are moving forward. And, we're trying to make those little steps that is going to make athletic therapy a bit of a household name. So when Mike's term as president was done, because the terms for the executive, even though it's a 2-year term that you are elected to, the executive is only 1 year. So you can be president 1 year and simply a director the next, which is fine. It gives different ideas and whatnot. And while the role is kind of defined as to what the president does and sort of the powers that be, if you will, everyone kind of takes it on as a little bit different. And one of them for me was communication. And I did this as the vice president. So it was like, I'm pretty accessible. I have my cell number at the bottom of my email. I I usually get back to people within a day. And if it's not me, it's because I've forwarded it on, like, oh, I can't answer this question, so I'll forward it on to the person I know can do it.
Right.
And to me, that's important, where people need to know. People don't get to know all this stuff, and that's like unfortunate, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. And to be fair, like, we're elected to do these things and kind of make these calls. And I just saw we were on a path, and I thought the path was good, so I was good to take it up and continue what we were trying to do, which is just move us forward. And my term ends here May 31st. I did not seek re-election, so I told my wife, who was is a big influence on me. I said I'm going to go back for 1 year, 1 term. And at the time, I had no interest, not no interest in being president, but it wasn't something that was on my radar at all. And then once I was elected from within as president, I just said, "Yep, I'm done. I'm going to go out here." And when I got on in 2015, I said to a lot of people, like, we need fresh ideas, we need fresh eyes, we need, these sorts of things. And so, half a effort not to be a hypocrite, like, yep, my time is done. We need somebody fresh, somebody new to keep going, or to either keep going or to take that sidestep and say, you know what, I actually think this might be a better direction. Hey, that's great. Because I think we're all here to move the profession forward and advocate for our patients and our profession and our jobs and our everything, to get us kind of to that next level. And I think we're doing an okay job. Somebody has a different idea, yeah, let's do it. I'll support that.
Absolutely. And I applaud you, man. I applaud the board of directors and the CATA as an organization, and obviously in a little bit of alignment here with this being an education tool that multiple colleges and students are using now. I think this platform to listen to our colleagues in this space and reflect on, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that's how the board worked, or I didn't know, these types of things, or I could get these experiences. Like, we're sharing stories. And I think this is a really big path to growing our profession from within it as well. And that was sort of the impetus for starting this podcast. And I really appreciate you coming on here. And again, all that you've done for the profession, all that you've done for the athletes, for your family, for students, for everybody that you've touched through this role, because although it's a thankless job, I think within our sport, within our profession itself, we get all the thanks we need when we can applaud each other for the job that we do, and come back around to camaraderie, and you supported me with an injury when you're out in Halifax, and all those different pieces that go such a long way, and for sharing your time, man. To be honest, TQ, it's been a pleasure. I'll let you run here. I think you're out here actually in March.
We are.
To play out this way. So when you're out here, make sure we get in touch and line that one up. Hopefully it's
for sure.
Night here as well. We can get together on a different level. But yeah, I really appreciate your time, and I'll let you close this one out. I'll just go through final remarks, and then whatever closing words you have, we would be grateful for those. So it's been session 97 of First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Our guest tonight, Tyler Quennell, who is the current president of the board of directors of CATA. He's with the Toronto Rock lacrosse team. He's with the Sheridan College athletic therapy program, and so many other spaces and places across this profession. Thank you so much, and thank you to all the listeners out there. TQ, I'll let you close this one out, man. Thanks again.
It's been great, and thanks for having me, James. And absolutely, in March we'll have to get together and do it. And I can't wait. I'm 97 now. I can't wait to see who's going to be 100. Who's going to be 100?
We've got a magic 100 lined up.
Yeah, exactly. But I like how you said that, and using the platform as a space to share stories, because and we've done this a couple of times this year, and I think our student Katie has really liked it, where the therapist from the other team, at the end, because we all know each other, and everybody's kind of left, we'll have a beer in the training room in Hamilton. And it's been it's been good because you just start kind of throwing around stories, and some of them are embarrassing and some of them are funny. But it's that camaraderie that's good, because sometimes you're sharing these things. And I remember I laugh, and I'll admit that I stole this actually from my time as a TICAT with Chris Pascas, because he said he would write a book and he's going to call it "I Did It My Way and Learned the Hard Way," and that just stuck with me. And while I think that would be a great book for athletic therapy and parenting and gardening and anything, like, that title just fits. It just kind of resonated with me. That's something that I feel like this podcast is going to be good for it, because I think that younger generation needs to hear some of these, like, yep, you and I were students too, and we came out and we didn't know anything, and you just kind of, this was our path, and you just asked. Like, that's how I got my job with Dave, is I ended up asking. I asked for it. Now I had to ask for it, like, twice, 2-3 times a month for 4 years, but I wore him down. Yeah. So, but to have them see that and whatnot, sometimes it's like, oh, you're right, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it was that easy. Mm-hmm. So it's good. I think this stuff like this is going to be really good for them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. And your story and our story and everybody's listening who's got a story, it matters because it resonates, and it's within this performance realm. It's within the space of affecting others and doing service to others. So I think this is where we'll end it, but not the end, obviously. So appreciate it again, man. Good night. Good night to everybody out there. Thank you for listening. Session 98 will be next. I'll let you know on the date on that one, but it will be soon. Thanks so much, TQ. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, James.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.